I always heard this saying, when it's bigger than your budget, that's when you know it's God. And
Yeah.
going into what you were saying about that, because even right now I'm in a space where like my faith is being stretched in so many different areas. And a lot of times, God will show you or tell you your destination, but he doesn't explain the destination, like the actual journey. He just shows you the end, but not actually what happens in between. And I think sometimes he does that because if he does, he'll discourage you, or you may even sabotage and be like, oh, I can't do that. If I have to go through this, like, nah, I'll pass. So what do you say to the people surviving transition?
Yeah, transition is a difficult place. And as I'm talking to you, I'm talking to myself. As I'm
Yeah.
talking as I'm talking to these people that are listening, I'm talking to myself for sure. And I think that, just like you said, Camille, I think that God specializes in showing us uh, the end result. Like even when we look at the story of Joshua, like, Joshua had a dream. I mean, not Joshua, Joseph. Joseph had a dream. God showed him a glimpse of the dream, but he did not tell him, hey, you'll be, your brothers will turn on you. Your family will turn on you. You'll be put in the pit. You'll be sold into slavery. You'll have to go to jail. You'll be lied on. You'll be talked about. You'll be, you'll go viral for all the wrong things. You know what I'm saying? And then there's still a palace that still awaits you. Mm-hmm. And so I think that through that transition, I think the biggest thing that we have to hold on to, or the biggest thing we should hold on to, is what God showed us before we got in it. And I think that's why God, when God gives Joseph that dream, it's like a snapshot of the end, or his promised place. And I'm pretty sure it's very hard to hold on to that in the pit. It's very hard to hold on to that in the prison. It's very hard to hold on to that when everybody is speaking ill of you and everybody thinks that you are lying and so forth and so on. But through that place, I think that that's where, we find our strength in God and not our strength in our own ability. So if you're going through transition right now, you just gotta get back to what God said and hold on to that for dear life, no matter what it may look like, no matter what it may feel like, no matter what you may be dealing with or going through. You got to hold on to that for dear life.
And in that, Adrian, don't we also have to be more protective as far as our circle, maybe the people around us, what they say, your ear gate, your eye gate, what we're taking in, what we're reading, because um, um, you are what you eat. So if you listen to a lot of mess, hearing a lot of mess, that can deter your faith, and it can kind of, what did God really say that, or was that you? And then have you questioning, like, well, was that really God or was that me? Like, and so can you kind of speak to the importance of, I won't say cutting people off, but maybe shifting your proximity with certain people and things during that time to protect the promise?
Yeah, I think one of the things that, we oftentimes we talk about, the shift in what needs to happen and letting people go. But I think we also need to highlight the grief that happens from that place, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because sometimes, you will need to, I call it a season of separation. It doesn't mean that it's always forever, and doesn't mean that you know, it will last forever. But you might have to go through that season. Not might. If you're on the journey that God has called you to, you're going to go through that season where God is going to separate you, where either you're going to make the decision or He's going to make the decision for you. Mm-hmm. And one of the things I tell people, man, is that God will give people the strength to leave you when you don't have the strength to leave them. And you'll be devastated, man. Why they, because I'm, I'm telling you what I'm experiencing right now. Like you be in that season, you be like, man, why, like, why everybody leaving me? Why everybody, and it's really orchestrated and ordained by God for those things to happen. A lot of times, like when we're going through the valley of the transition of life and the ebbs and flows of life, we think that, losing everything and all of that stuff is about us. It's really about the people that are around you, so that God can shake up your circle so that you don't have the wrong people around you when you make it to your destination. And so, there is a cutting off that you will have to do, and you're going to grieve that. There's a cutting off that other people will make the decision to say, hey, I ain't fooling with you no more. You know, where you are is not where I am, and so forth and so on. And that's a cutoff situation. You got to grieve that. And then there's just some time of isolation. You know, a lot of us that say, that, before elevation, there's a season of separation, and isolation. And so before God begins to elevate, I think that he separates. And, we see that through the parable in the wheat and the tare. We see that, like I was just talking about with Joseph, and you kind of, you have to almost endure before you enjoy. And so it just comes to a place where, yeah, it's going to hurt, and you're going to have to make some hard decisions about who is deserving to be with you at your final place. But I think for me, what I've been telling myself, like, if you weren't with me during the renovation, or if you weren't with me during the tearing down and the rebuilding, then you may not understand, the complexities of the new house that's being built, and so I can go out and meet you somewhere. I can, we can hang out every now and then. But for the most part, like, I got to protect what God has called me to build. So, yeah, you definitely have to go through that season. But I think through that, you have to, again, like, go through those processes of grieving and then continue to hold on to what God told you.
That's really good. Also, too, I think, because I'm kind of going through that myself, like, I didn't tell him my business. Like, so I know this is on time. I was going to say, as far as going through that transition, I think sometimes it's also for God to fine tune your ear to hear him.
Yeah.
And we can have what I call noise pollution spiritually, because we're taking in advice from so many different people, or we're watching so many podcasts or so much social media. And then it's like, when God is speaking, you're not able to discern if that's him or something your friend said or something you watched. And so he has to kind of purge your ear from some stuff. And so when he speaks, you'll be able to recognize, because this place that we're in is so critical for what's to come. And there's so much at stake. If you don't hear him clearly, it could jeopardize everything.
Yep. And I mean, and you're exactly right. I think that, it's one of those things where, if you have too many people around, it's very easy to confuse what is God and what is good advice.
Mm-hmm.
And so
good advice versus godly advice.
What I'm saying, because it's like that concept of social media. If I went on social media right now, on my timeline of things that are featured right on my timeline, I'm an artist. I draw. I like a lot of pencil art, and I like a lot of people that draw with sketch pencils. Right, that stuff. The algorithm is going to feed me that stuff. Right, it's going to tell me. It's going to tell me, hey, this is an artist that does what you like. You've been liking these posts, and a lot of times we would think that just because something is showing up on my timeline, that, oh, this is God speaking to me. And that's the same way with, like, our friends that are around us. They may give good advice, and then you would think that, oh, this is God speaking to me. No, they were in the concept of your algorithm. They know what you like. They know what maybe you want to hear, and maybe they want to, continue the relationship and make you feel like, hey, like, I'm here for you. I'm here for you. I'm here for you. And it's not that they're bad people. It's just the fact that, we probably have misplaced those people in our prioritization. One of the things I've been preaching, I was preaching in Oakland, and one of the things I just been overemphasizing is that whatever we consult before we consult God has become our God.
So can you say that again for the people in the back? I really like that.
Whatever we consult before we consult God, or whatever we consult before we are obedient to what God said, has become our God. And what I mean by that is, like, God may tell you something, right? And then it'd be like, hey, go and move to Timbuktu, Kalamazoo. It was God. And then you got to call up, Rhonda and Nick and Jason, and call them and be like, hey, bro, man, what you think about me moving to Timbuktu? Like, what you think about, man? And it's like, wait a minute, why do you have to consult that when you've already heard from God? And then immediately that relationship between, like I use the analogy of Nick, that relationship between me and Nick now is in direct opposition to God. So anything that's placed above God, he has to destroy.
Because that's idolatry.
Exactly. So now I've put them on the same wavelength as God. So before I'm obedient to God, I got to consult Nick. So now God is saying, oh, you trust Nick's word more than you trust mine. So now me and Nick, you don't even realize that now God is saying, oh, I got a war for your attention between you talking to your best friend Nick. So now
you got to shut that down.
I got to shut it down for a season, or I got to put a wedge in. I got to put some distance between you and Nick so that you can see things properly and be obedient to what I said. So yeah, you're going to grieve that time of separation between you and Nick. You're going to, dang, that's my best friend. Why every time I hit him up, he busy, or then when he hit me up, I'm busy, and we keep missing each other. And what's going on here? Sometimes those seasons are definitely orchestrated by God.